Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Well, in a few moments, we're going to be joined by Labour's Deputy Leader, Tom Watson. First, though, the Labour Party has now said that it's going to back a second referendum on Brexit. It would offer people a choice between any deal that Theresa May manages to get approved by Parliament and remaining in the EU. There would not be a no-deal option under this plan. Jeremy Corbyn's calculation is that this policy will win the party more support than backing Brexit. But is he right? Well, I'm joined now by the former president of YouGov, Peter Kellner, and alongside him is the veteran Labour MP, Jim Fitzpatrick. Now, we had John Mann sitting in your chair yesterday, quite emphatic that if Labour goes down this route of saying we want another referendum, it would be disastrous in the Midlands and northern constituencies, which Labour depends on. What do you say to that?
Adam, look, there's clearly a problem. In the referendum in 2016, roughly two-thirds of Labour supporters voted Remain and one-third voted Leave. So 8 million Remainers amongst Labour voters, 4 million Leavers. And any leader is going to be tempted to try and find a policy that rides both horses, that Remainers are happy with, that Leavers are happy with. The problem is, I think now it's no longer possible to ride both horses at once. So the question is, which horse do you ride? Well, what we know now, in terms of present opinion, is quite a lot of Labour Leave voters have changed their minds. And whereas it was 2-1 for Remain amongst Labour supporters, it's now 4-1 for Remain. So is there a risk that a pro-referendum policy could alienate some of the 20% Labour Leave voters? Yes, obviously. But if you go down a pro-Brexit, anti-referendum route, you're in far more danger of alienating the 80% of Labour supporters who want to Remain. So given that choice where you've got to choose which horse to ride, it's clear to me, and all the polling confirms this, the numbers support going for Remain in a referendum rather than Leave.
Jim Fitzpatrick, is that the right horse to back, another referendum?
Well, clearly Jeremy's been looking at the numbers that Peter's described. He's been holding the line for the past 2 years, saying we respect the outcome of the referendum, and that's been upsetting a lot of people. And we saw the Labour independents leaving the party last week. He's clearly calculated that he line because he has to keep the majority of his Remain MPs, the people vote MPs, and Labour members are putting them under pressure on side. But as we saw this morning, when he's clearly still not very comfortable with it and starting to say it is one of other options, Jeremy's instincts are not for a second vote, but
what's your instincts? I mean, are you worried about those Leave voting Labour supporters?
Well, yeah, I think that if you look at the Parliamentary Labour Party, I don't think that all Labour MPs are going to vote for the option when John McDonnell decides to draft the amendment to put down for the meaningful vote. And I think that hemorrhage of Labour votes means this is not going to fly in the House of Commons. There isn't a majority in the Commons for a people's vote. So I think what Jeremy's doing is saying, right, I've kept the faith with the Leavers for the past 2 years. I've now got to nod towards the Remainers, and he is trying to do what Peter says is not possible, ride both horses.
But what about you as a Labour MP? I mean, what do you think is the right thing in the interests of the party maximising its vote?
Well, I think I've told you before, Adam, that my line is that I don't want a no-deal Brexit, and that's why I'm inclined to be voting for the Prime Minister's deal, because that means that we can get all this behind us, we can get back to some serious domestic politics. I don't think a people's vote option for Labour is going to be to the benefit of the party. I think it's just going to maintain the divisions, but the divisions will be smaller than they have been so far, and it will stop more MPs leaving.
No, I mean, of course, with the first-past-the-post system, the impact of poll standings is quite complicated. And as I understand it, the seats which Labour needs to win and the seats which it's most in danger of losing next time round are predominantly vote Leave seats. And so you don't want to upset those people, do you?
Yeah, it's even more complicated than that, Adam, because you've not just got to look at the overall picture in those seats, you've got to look at the votes that are up for grabs in those seats. So take the northeast of England, the strongest Labour region in Britain, roughly 60-40 for Leave in the referendum. Well, all the latest polling shows the northeast has gone 50-50. It's swung more than any other region. And that's because there are a lot of Labour voters who voted Leave in 2016 who now feel betrayed, let down, or against a Tory Brexit, as Jeremy Corbyn puts it. So it is by no means clear that even in those seats you describe, and you're right that that's where the battlegrounds will be at the next general election, it is by no means clear that campaigning on a Leave platform will win those seats.
Do you see any sign of a change in the mood of Labour voters, particularly those who voted to Leave?
Well, given that I'm from a London seat, and London's remained central, and my constituency is very much in that guard, I'm not coming across that many people. But when we have to win, we had to win 64 seats to win the next general election before all of this, and now we've got 9 seats which have gone independent. I don't think there is a recipe that gets Jeremy Corbyn into number 10, whichever option he chooses. Therefore, he has to calculate which is the least damaging option. And I think the party hierarchy have said to Jeremy, look, we've got to move ground. And in that instance, it's a better presentation for Labour to the MPs, to the members and to constituencies.
I mean, you're a London MP, but you're also Scottish, if I can put it that way.
I'm a Londoner. I've been here for 45 years.
Yeah, all right. But in Scotland, surely opening the door to Remaining is going to be probably the only way Labour can get back into the game.
As I say, it is a calculation, and keeping most MPs on side, most members happy, and for some of the seats that we need to win, for example in Scotland, it clearly has potential electoral advantages, but I don't think it's going to win the number of seats to get Labour a general election victory.
Can I just say, Adam, let's just for argument's sake say that a strong pro-Brexit stance by Labour at a coming election would win them maybe 10 or a dozen seats back in the middle of the north. But then look at the seats like Canterbury and Kensington, around the south.
Really?
Well, I think there'll be at least enough to offset. You see, I don't buy the proposition that you win back those Midlands and North seats by saying Leave. I'm absolutely certain that a pro-Brexit Labour Party at the next election will suffer in the south.
Do you think we are really moving to the point that actually there's just going to be a polarisation on Europe between the two main parties, that the Conservatives are going to be an anti-EU party and Labour's going to be a pro-EU party?
I do, and I think it's deeper than that, because the attitudes to Europe are part of a wider set of a liberal, internationalist, outward-looking set of views which are associated with graduates voting for that, and people who take a more, call it patriotic, call it nationalist, call it nativist, whatever you want, anti-immigration, anti-overseas aid. It's not just Europe, it's a whole set of values and attitudes in which Europe is the most powerful current symbol.
Do you think that polarisation is happening?
I think there is clearly a shift. The independents demonstrated there is uncomfortableness on the Tory benches and more on the Labour benches. Whether on the first past the post system it can actually manifest into a successful political alternative, I think is very unlikely.
OK, thank you both very much indeed.